is Dave Arnold, your host of Cooking Issues, coming to you live from the heart of Manhattan, Rockefeller Center, New York City, Newsstand Studios. Joined as usual with John. How you doing, John?
Doing great, thanks.
And got Joe Hazen rocking the panels. What's up?
Rocking the panels.
Rocking the panels. We don't have Quinny Quinn in the upper left, but we do have Nastasia the Hammer Lopez. How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. And Jackie Molecules. What's up?
Yo. I'm good.
So listen, people, you don't know this, but, to the extent that we get here a little bit beforehand, we chat, and Jackie Molecule says he's got a rant for us. Bring it.
Yeah, I do. I had the displeasure of attending maybe the worst food festival I've ever been to in my life. An event that should not exist.
Bring it.
And, yeah, Nastasia was there as well.
Yes.
This is called Chain Fest, right? And I don't know if you've heard of this, but get this. It's the tickets are apparently expensive. I was invited for free, nicely, but
I don't know. Talking crap about something you went to for free. Okay.
Well, listen to this, man. Listen to this. You end up in a parking lot, and all of the vendors are fast food chains. That's why it's called Chain Fest. And it's essentially, I guess, what they're doing is like test kitchen items. They advertise it as like exclusive, like new sauces from KFC or a Domino's pizza with like caviar or something.
Oh my god! Was that real? Stop.
Yes,
Did you make that up, or is that real?
No, I'm not making that up. The
Caviar?
Domino's pizza had smoked salmon caviar and like whipped mascarpone.
Yeah.
On a cold piece of Domino's.
Did it still have that crappy sweet sauce? Hey, I used to work for Domino's, by the way. So,
Okay, well then, no. Here's some of the things you could be so lucky to try: Cracker Barrel, Red Robin, Red Lobster, Panda Express,
Red Lobster.
Castle.
Red Lobster what was their thing? Like, we're going to exist again?
It was a VIP only cheddar biscuit with lobster, which I doubt was really lobster. It's probably like imitation lobster or something.
And were they like, this is what we were working on when we closed? Is that what they said?
I think they reopened. I think they ended up like surviving bankruptcy or something. But anyway, the point being, right, you go to this thing and they give you a passport. You wait in the line to get one little crappy taste of fast food in a parking lot in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And then you can't go for seconds.
What? How do they know? They look at you and they're like,
they stamp your passport.
Oh,
they give you a
God.
passport that gets stamped.
Oh, that's and
there are these activations where you take pictures with the Panda Express panda or something. It was so gross.
So a couple things I'm gleaning is it's not really for people who are interested in food.
No, well, it is advertised towards those people.
But it's food Instagram.
It got coverage in all the and Eater and all these other places.
Food Instagram though, not food.
Right.
If someone said you could come and you're going to taste all of these like things that like may or may not go into production, like from a food perspective, you'd be like, that's interesting to see if they were going to give you it in good condition and let you actually taste it. But if it's all about taking a picture with a mascot, that's a different crew, right?
I think it's trying to do both. And I mean, the way it advertised itself as a gourmet chain food festival with exclusive gourmet offerings. That's their language. I'm reading from their website.
Gourmet Red Robin. Let me ask you this. If you were going to pay the full chump charge, how much would it cost?
Something like $375 for
VIP.
Whoa. For VIP. VIP.
$375?
Well, for VIP, we were VIP.
But what do you get for being a VIP? First of all, for those of you that have never been in a VIP room, like the real VIPs don't go to the VIP room. The real VIPs have their own room that's curated by somebody else. The VIP room is the tool. So you're not with the fun people and you're not with the VIPs. If you've never been in a VIP room, the average VIP room is really just like, Stas, back me up on this. The average VIP room sucks.
Yeah, and we had to pay for our own drinks too, being VIP. So
what?
It was, $22 drinks.
Oh my God! Now let me ask you this: we have a caller. We have a caller. Let's bring them into this conversation. Caller, who is it? Is it Quinn or is it?
It's just me.
Hey, Quinn and the Get Fresh Quinn. So you can get. But listen, here's my point. Like, was it the first year that they did it? Because sometimes people are like, it's easy to put on a festival, and you're like, nah.
No, it wasn't.
Not their first year.
Because like the first year that Googa Mooga ran, I don't know if they did it again, but the first year Googa Mooga ran.
I remember that, yeah.
they crashed all the cell towers, and instead of having walkie-talkies, the event was trying to run itself off cell phones, and so no one working the event even knew what was going on because no one could communicate with each other because they didn't have walkie-talkies, right? So there's a lot of like rookie mistakes you make the first time you run a festival, and someone who plans festivals is like, I'm gonna charge you like $150,000 to plan this festival, and you're like, I'm not gonna pay you $150,000, and you're like, okay, and then you walk away. You know what I mean?
Sure. But Dave, the bigger issue, like, is this where we've come in food? Like, is Monsanto Fest next? Like, this is crazy.
I would go to that.
Paying to eat KFC, you know?
Oh, if I could go to Monsanto Fest and like try a snack chip that made me glow for a week and a half, I would totally do that.
Fair. Okay, fine.
You know what
Maybe
I mean?
Monsanto Fest would be better than Chain Fest.
Yeah, like Monsanto needs to come out with like CRISPR Krispies that actually change my DNA as I eat them. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm looking for. Telling you, and
everybody loves sci-fi. Monsanto needs to just go all in.
Yeah, listen.
On the GMO stuff.
When they allow people to like gene edit like old crotchety people like myself, I'm signing up. I want that glow in the dark like dot in the middle of my head so I can see at all times. Especially if I could turn it off and on. Yo, if I could turn it off and on, my little bioluminescent flashlight in the center of my head. Come on. Although
there was one really cool thing you did get at Chain Fest.
What's that?
And that was diarrhea.
Jackie molecules set on spray. Love it. Stas, I'm sure Nastasia of the Iron Constitution didn't have such problems.
No, actually, I thought, so Aaron Polsky was there too, and I saw him like rushing across the crowd because I was like, yeah, he's going to go tell them that we deserve free drinks. Like, yeah. So I went to go taste them because I was like, I want to be there when he takes down the ticket person and was like, we need free drinks. So I couldn't find him, and I texted him. I was like, where'd you go? And he said, I shit myself.
Oh my God! Who knew Polecat was so delicate? Now he's going to text me. Now he's going to text me and complain.
No.
Right.
We were at the beach before Chain Fest, and you talked to us there, Dave. And we had pasta that had been sitting in the car with tuna in it for 4 hours. So
yeah, well,
could have been that.
My baby, but I wonder how unsafe that is. We got to get this risky or not people back on because, tuna done been cooked to death, right? Mayonnaise is okay, but I guess you're folding new poison into it when you make the salad, right?
Yeah.
My grandma.
Right, you're diluting. Yeah. You're diluting the water, or you're increasing the water activity.
Yeah.
A lot.
So my grandma, who is Depression era or whatever, she would as soon as she put mayonnaise on a sandwich, she didn't realize somehow that mayonnaise is actually shelf stable in reality, and so as soon as she put mayonnaise on a sandwich, the shot clock was on that. If you didn't she would put it on your plate, and if you took a pause to have a conversation like we're having now, she would throw the sandwich away and make you a new one. I'm like, Grandma. She's like, it's the mayonnaise. Anyway. But if you go to New Orleans, mayonnaise is just sitting in a jug on the thing.
Yeah.
And New Orleans, nasty hot. You know what I mean? Nasty. Anyway. Well, that's a good story there, Jack. Quinn, what do you got for us since you're just freshly come on here?
Let's see. I tried some Concord grape sorbet I made. That turns out pretty good. Although it was in the fridge for 2 days. So I think the fresh Concord juice fermented a little bit.
Yeah. Well.
So there's a little funk in the sorbet.
Yeah, for those who don't make Concord products, for those of you that are, I don't know, maybe there's a French person listening. Concord grapes, which you probably hate being the only French person listening to this show, right, are, not good wine grapes. However, ain't nothing smell better than fresh Concord grapes. And Nastasia is going to agree with me on this, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Nastasia Nastasia hates all the weird little Gotsies that I do in the kitchen sometimes, except for when it comes to working with Concord grapes. And then she's like, yeah, you got to do that right, or you're an idiot, right? And Nastasia and I used to go, remember when we used to be able to get the French Culinary to order them for us and the cost didn't matter? Now we have to go to the farmer's markets like idiots and buy it.
Yeah.
And it's one of the rare things that we do really well here in New York. You know what I mean? don't like strawberries. That we think we do well. Yeah, dry stars are delicious. Yeah, okay, whatever. Go to Harry's Berries, Joker. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
What were you going to say?
But I mean, overall, it turned out pretty good. It was about like 80% like Concord material, mostly juice, and a little bit of actual like grape flesh and skin for like bulking material. But yeah, that was pretty good.
Before I get back to Concord.
And of course.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Or go ahead.
I was going to say, you said juice, and it reminded me that I was at a sandwich shop with Dax, and he ordered roast beef au jus, and the waiter, she said, do you want anything else on this sandwich? And he stupidly said no, thinking it was going to come with stuff, like mustard and whatnot, right? Pickles. And he came and like, this sandwich is plain. I was like, she asked you if you wanted anything on it, and you said no. So people who own restaurants got to realize that sometimes jamokes, such as my son, will show up and not realize that certain things need to be asked for the sandwich to taste good. So, the server, she could have said, do you really like things 100% plain? Or maybe some mustard and pickle would be nice. Anyway, go ahead, Quinn. What were you saying?
And the second project my family did, we're all a little obsessed with the new Netflix Chef's Table noodles.
I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Netflix.
I'm familiar with Netflix, the streaming service. Yeah. But I don't watch food. I don't watch food TV because, like, why? I don't. You know what I mean? But what's with the noodles? What kind of noodles? Which of the billion noodles are we talking about?
Pool noodles.
Pool noodles? You make them in a pool? Episodes. That's a good idea. Jacuzzi noodles? I would sign up for that. That's like a Heston Blumenthal trick from like the early 2000s. All right. So what is the new noodle?
Again, it's a series. I mean, each episode follows the chef. So the first episode was about Evan Funke, who is an American-born chef, but they trained in Italy, and their shtick is all handmade, fresh pasta, zero machines.
Earmuff stars.
No, I know him. He's a good guy.
All right. So is he making a kind of pasta that wants to be fresh? Because that's the thing. Make a kind of pasta that wants to be fresh.
Yeah, again, the episode featured many different shapes, classic, just like egg tagliatelle, filled pastas, that sort of thing. But one of the shapes they showed was called Trophy, and it's a semolina or Durham water dough, and you can
AKA pasta.
shape it. Yes, but as opposed to wheat flour and egg, Dave.
Well, I don't know if you know this. Durham is a wheat.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. But, to be precise, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Is it bronze cut?
The dyes? Well, no, because he's not using any machines. Rolling it by hand.
Okay, it's all hand.
Well, I mean, although pen and a knife, you know what those are, John?
Tools.
Yeah. Yep. Machines. Yeah, go ahead. Simple machines. Yes, go ahead.
And so you take a little nubbin of the pasta dough, you sort of roll it forward with your hand to make like a small tapered shape, and then with the blade of your hand, you drag backward, and it makes a corkscrew. Okay. It's a very sort of interesting motion. So we tried to do that, and my dad could get it sometime, but then we pivoted to Arcady.
Yeah, well, because those are easy to make. And by the way, impossible to cook. Easy to make, impossible to cook. You know what I mean? That's the thing. You orecchiette, I'm sorry, it's one of those pastas where, I understand, it's like a gin and tonic. I understand that it can be good, and yet it almost never is. Pasty on the inside and gummy on the out.
I like dried orecchiette, I think.
I mean, it can be good.
Yeah.
Or it can be a heartache.
Yeah,
but I know, but these are fresh.
If you
it was pretty good.
If you like the real nerve on the inside, or if you're not worried about getting blasted out. Here's an interesting one. I was in, by the way, back to Concords, because I need to give people some technical information on Concord grapes. So for those of you that never heard like the whole shtick on Concord grapes before, first of all, a sign of a good, don't go to a supermarket and buy seedless Concord grapes. Just don't.
No, it's not the same.
Yeah, right. Right. Don't buy it. Not only that, and I think I get this in your voice, don't support it. Don't support it. Not a Concord. No. Not a Concord grape. Don't do it. Second, you can't put Concord grapes in a masticating, any kind of juicer that's going to shred the seeds of a Concord grape is going to make the juice bitter and nasty. And by the way, when I say bitter and nasty, I like bitter and nasty sometimes, but not with my Concord grapes. So you're with me so far, right, Stas?
Yes.
And that's 9/10 of why it took us a million years to do Concord stuff. But when you press Concord grapes, the juice doesn't come out as dark as you think it should, right? So what you need to do is press it, and then as though you were a winemaker, I had enzymes, of course, because come on. But like press it, and then you can knead it by hand if you need to or whatever. I mean, I have equipment that'll do it for you. But let it sit on the skins for a long time. Then repress it again to extract as much color out of the skins. You want to break it, preferably break down some of the, break down some of the fruit. And you want to extract the color because that color and like a lot of the flavor is around the skins. So what I do when I'm making alcoholic drinks is I'll do that. I'll smash the grapes and I'll, with almost like with a muddler. If I don't have my, hydraulic press, I'll just use a muddler or a potato masher. And then I'll put Pectinex in it and I'll mash it with the Pectinex and let it really macerate for a while. Then I'll get the juice out of it by squeezing the hell out of it. Then I'll take the squeezing, the dry part, and I'll put that into liquor. And then the liquor will extract more color and flavor. And then I squeeze that again. And that's how I get maximum.
Done that.
Of course.
We have like just a really dinky like screw press.
Yeah.
And it worked okay. I didn't want to add Pectinex because we were potentially going to make jelly. And so I didn't want to mess with the pectin.
Yeah. But even without Pectinex, let it sit on the skins again and then repress it. Stir it around. Knead it.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah. And also, speaking of bitter and gross, something else minor, but I paid a king's ransom for some Moxie soda, and I tried that.
That was a mistake to pay extra for it.
I actually like it.
Yeah, it's fine. You know who makes a really good soda? That's Coke. I don't know. Would you pay extra? I would pay
a very
extra.
Different flavor.
I would pay extra for Dr. Brown's Celery Soda because that is a yeah.
What about some Jolt?
I know I've never had Jolt.
Never had Jolt?
No, never had Jolt.
Like Red Bull and a cola.
But oh my God, now you put that Simon and Garfunkel song, Jolt and Joe has left and gone away, cuckoo, cuckoo, Mrs. Robinson. Oh God. It's never going to leave my head. Do you know that I found that someone said it is like a known psychological problem. The inability to get music out of your head is like a thing, right? That certain people like me have. So like, it's hard to break the internal soundtrack. You know what I mean?
I believe it.
Diddly ding ding, diddly ding ding. All right. So, I was in Pittsburgh this weekend, and of course I went by my favorite Dietrich's on the way over. By the way, Dietrich's is in Crumsville, right outside of Lenhartsville, all right? And you go there, and they only take cash. So just be aware that they only take cash. They do have an ATM machine, but I'm not going to take $2, $3 from you when you do that, right? The prices are decent. I stocked up on my favorite, like, for those of you that don't know me, when I eat pretzels, I eat pretzels that are made with the following ingredients: flour, water, salt, yeast, lye, and or some sort of base for the boil, right? But other than that, I don't really want anything else in my pretzel in general. I don't want fats or oils because if I wanted a cracker, I would have asked for a cracker. I want it in pretzel shape. So, but there's one pretzel. Oh my God, I can't remember. I was going to bring them in. I forgot the name of it. But there's one pretzel that they make there where they make a soft pretzel, butter style pretzel, lighter, and then they dehydrate it. and they're real hard. And for some reason, Ruthie's, I really like them. So I buy a bunch of bags when I'm there, along with a bunch of other like Penn Dutch pretzels and other Penn Dutch gear. So I got John his ring bologna, as I've said a million times. I got my Lebanon bologna, which is, not bologna and not from Lebanon, the country. It's Lebanon, Pennsylvania, very sour. Anyway, so I was getting my Pennsylvania Dutch on my way over to Pittsburgh. I was going to a wedding in Pittsburgh. And when you go to Pittsburgh, you go to the Heinz, America's favorite ketchup. You go to the Heinz Museum, and they have an entire Heinz, exhibit. And here's some highlights. Heinz used to have something in Walgreens where you could buy Heinz dehydrated soups, and the person behind the counter at Walgreens would heat it up in a special tailor-made Heinz soup machine. And with its own can openers and its weird little electric mugs and stuff like that. And then right next to it, they had, wait for it, a Heinz baked bean electric bean pot crock, which are sick. And little Walgreens Heinz bean cups. Oh my God, so cool. And it's even better. So Heinz they were very, very frugal folk, right? The people who own the company. And so he made fake pickles, right? They come in a little leather, you know how you have a little leather tool case that folds up? There was a little leather tool case that you open up, and inside of it are 4 pickles with different sizes of fake pickle. Pickle colored, pickle shaped, look like pickles with a number on it. And you hold up the pickle, the real pickle, next to the sample pickle, and then on the fake pickle was written the number of pickles per barrel at that size. And then you would look up the cost, and they could determine, on the fly, the profit they would get off of a particular barrel of pickles by using their, salesperson, sample pickle. I was sick. I was sick. Awesome. Not on eBay. I looked. I was like, pickle samples, eBay. They're like, no. Too rare, even for us. Went to, so have you had the oven-baked hoagies before? So it's like a hoagie, which is like a sub, for there, right? But they put them in the oven and heat them up. I didn't go to Primanti's because, apparently it's real touristy, and so they put French fries and whatnot. But I went to a place called Big Jim's, and I was like, how good's the Italian hoagie going to be? And so they make the, standard, Italian hoagie, and they oven it so it's hot and a little bit stale, crispy in a good way on the outside, you know what I mean? But then they lift it and they put the cold stuff on it on top, right? Like Nastasia does with Liquid Intelligence to separate the hot and the cold. And then they bring you a squeezy bottle of their own Italian dressing to spray all over it as you eat it. I was like, you know what this is? Good, real good. And it's on Saline Street. So you're going across, get it. Swear to God, you're going across Hot Metal Bridge in Pittsburgh. You go across Hot Metal Bridge, and then you make a right onto Saline Street. Hot Metal Bridge is named after the fact that they would melt the metal on one side of the river and then pour it on the other, and they had a bridge over the river where huge crucibles of molten steel were going over the water. And at one point during World War II, 15% of all the steel made in the United States was going over the Hot Metal Bridge. I was like, I would have... For as much of a hellscape as that would have been, I kind of wish I had seen it. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And so on the way over to Pittsburgh, I stopped by a town I used to go to all the time called, and get it out now, Charlottesville. Yes, contains the word "shart." And they named the town long before that meant a toot that went too far, right? Okay, so get it out of your system. So when I was a kid, Charlottesville was exactly in between my parents and my grandparents. So they used to drop me off in Charlottesville. We would all have a meal at a Penn Dutch place called Haig's because my dad's family, comes from Pennsylvania Dutch, York kind of stuff, right? And so I went there, and it turns out this entire town is shut down. They used to have a place called also Roadside America with an entire miniature plate that got dismantled over COVID and auctioned off. It doesn't exist anymore. So the entire town, all of the stuff that I used to go see when I was a kid is basically gone. They don't even have a Stuckey's anymore. You know what I mean? So, but I stopped into an antique store while I was there, and they have the old 1994 edition Charlottesville Community Cookbook. And let me go... I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it because they give all of these like old, like, you know, like the old, like, you know, Bot Boy, the Pennsylvania like pot pie where you make the noodles and you drop it into the soup and you boil it. So they have that, but they call it all out in Penn Dutch, like Hinkle Bot Boy. They have like, you know, there's one called Bova Schenkel, which is like like little boy legs, and they're basically giant pierogies that are like cooked over a broth and then panned with butter, and they have those in the red. So I highly recommend it, and it has little words of wisdom in the bottom, most of which are about God, and you know, but one of which was this, which I'll leave you with before I leave the Charlottesville Community Cookbook. It says, hospitality is making people feel at home when you wish they were. Zing! Yeah. I was like, God bless you. God bless you. Oh, and there's a giant candy store in Pittsburgh that sells candy and tobacco, right? But huge. And I forget the name of it, but they had their Herb's Pickled Hot Sausage, right? Herb's Pickled Hot Sausage. And I didn't buy it there because it didn't have price tags on anything. And like, I can't stand that. Like, tell me what's going to cost. I don't want to have to come and have a negotiation for every freaking thing I'm going to buy. Just write the freaking price on it. You know what I mean? Just do it. Or if you don't want to write prices, put a dot on it and then have a decoder ring if you want to change the prices every day. If there's a spot price for pickled sausage. But so I bought it on Amazon. And it's got a nice congealed, it clearly heated up enough for some of the fat to come out of the sausage and congeal on the side of the bucket. And John and Joe, are you going to tuck into this or no? Oh, yeah. Man, they shipped it without a top seal on it, meaning that could have leaked all over anything at any time. It smells a little bit like what I'm sure Polsky was smelling like right before he went to the at the fast food joint. But let me see here. Let's see what we got going here. It slices. So this is a sausage that was like pickled in vinegar and food coloring. And I don't know if any of you have grew up in the 70s like I did. There used to be a thing, they still make it, called Vienna sausage. And what it is it's a mealy little sausage in a can full of water. And
came in a tin like sardines.
Yeah. And this has a little bit of that squidgy feeling. Let's see whether it's got that canned meat taste that I actually enjoy. Hold on a second. Okay. John, you eat it and you describe it. There's something good and something terrible, but I don't know what it is. I can't describe it. What do you got?
The texture just kind of like gets a little sandy.
Yeah, well, you knew that was going to happen when you soaked meat in vinegar after you had cooked the hell out of it.
And also eating it out of a lid that's not really.
Yeah. So why don't we wash that?
Don't go to put sand in.
Joe, why don't we wash this down with what'd you bring, Joe?
I brought you Twiglets.
Give me the story on Twiglets while John and I try it.
Well, I mean, you were referring to Twiglets. I talked to my wife. She's a Brit. She knows Twiglets very well. So I found them at the local Amazon, and boom, we got Twiglets at the house. They taste like yeasty, but like burnt toast.
They are burnt toast, bitter. Yeah, bitter, but I like them.
I like it too. I kind of found that I enjoy. I kind of went back for them.
Yeah. That's one of those things where you're like, nope, and then you're like, you know what?
Not bad.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of yeast, a little burnt.
Little bit of yeast. All right. All right. So we had a question in. I'm trying to find it because I want to make sure. Okay. Tony, but spelled with a Y, not with an I. Joe's like, cover up the sausage. Cover up the sausage. Can't take it. He can't take it. All right. So we got a question in from Tony about Kitchen Arts and Letters. Kitchen Arts and Letters is selling a book called Tacos CDMX, like Ciudad, Mexico, right? And Tony says, think of getting my son a copy of this book for Christmas since he loves tacos and does business in Mexico City. I'm not sure a book of this style is worth the $125 asking price, though. And so then, I said, okay, I will ask Matt Sartwell of Kitchen Arts and Letters. And so here's what he replied. This is an amazing resource created on the ground in Mexico City. It's very handsomely photographed and printed with an energetic design that's very much Mexico City, and it's a slightly oversized book bound in full cloth. We buy the book from a small publisher that only prints these Tucker seller tributes. There's also one for Tijuana and a new one coming for Guadalajara, probably arriving at the same time as the reprint of the Mexico City. It's a lot more expensive than a standard U.S. published book. If someone's just looking for a guidebook, it's overpriced for that service alone. It's a cultural. It's a cultural statement. We don't have final details of the price of the reprint. Here's why you want to buy from Kitchen Arts Landers. Get ready for this though. A hazard of working with indie publishers and coping with currency fluctuations. The Mexican peso has strengthened over the last year or two, but it's possible the price will come down. If that happens, we will refund the difference to anyone who has pre-ordered at $125. I hope that helps someone make a decision, Matt. So he says worth getting as a cultural document, and if the price comes down by the time he gets it, he'll pass those savings on to you. Because good guy.
Greg, Matt's art was awesome. I mean, as you were reading that, I saw his head like bobbing. Yeah, totally did.
Yeah. Well,
love you, Matt.
I figured rather than paraphrase what he said, read what he said.
You're gonna get a little bubble.
We should get him back on around like right before Christmas or, the holidays, help come up with like a guide of what's good to get.
Yeah. All right, what else do we got here? we got to handle this. Alexander wrote this a long time ago. Alexander, sorry about that. I recently, but not so recently anymore, but theoretically recently, came across a large amount of vanilla beans, 500 grams, and I'm wondering what to do with them. I've made a vanilla extract before, but 500 grams would make a lot of extract. What are some other ways to use this much vanilla? Also, what's the best method for making vanilla extract? Has anyone tried sous vide? I've only soaked the beans in alcohol before. Alexander, the best way to make vanilla extract is to get somebody to do it for you. Because when you visit like a flavor house, like Nastasia and I visited, it's not called David Michael anymore. They got bought by somebody. But we visited David Michael, and we asked them this same question. Remember this, Stas?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they laughed at us. First of all, like they have like 3 people working their vanilla desk. And by the time they're done with the vanilla, it has no flavor left in it at all. So I've said this on the air a bunch of times, but in case, you haven't, I don't know, it's the first time you're listening, we walked up to a 55-gallon drum of vanilla seeds, right, that have been scraped free of their pods. And Julie Snarsky, who is, the person giving us our tour, she dips the spoon in, hands us each a spoon, and she says, "What do you taste?" And we put the whole spoon in our mouth, and Nastasia and I, what do we taste, Stas? Nothing. Like vaguely woody planty. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing, right? And we were like, oh, man. And she's like, yeah, we actually sell these 55-gallon drums to an ice cream manufacturer who shall remain nameless. It's Breyers. And they dump it into their ice cream to make it look like they made it from fresh vanilla beans, which what they did instead was they got extract and then dumped these tasteless dots into it. Right? Those dots could just as easily be, metal shavings. They have no flavor whatsoever. You know what I mean? And it's because they have like very hardcore like ways to like decoct it once, decoct it twice, spin it out, crush it. They have, this is what they do for a living to get like the most vanilla kind of vanilla you can get out of it. And, I think that the professionals, if you buy a high quality one, like you guys, anyone here have a favorite vanilla? You Nielsen Massey people? What are you? You fancy?
I guess that's usually what I get is Nielsen Massey, but yeah.
Madagascar?
Well, for a variety, yeah. So like you can get Tahitian, you get Madagascar, you can't really get Mexican. Anyway, so like my point being that it's very hard to compete with them in terms of that. What I recommend that you do is vacuum bag them down in almost single serving portions so that they stay a lot longer. The enemy is not necessarily time per se in vanilla. The enemy is moisture loss and volatile loss. So if you can stem the loss of volatiles, right, and bags aren't perfect for it, right? So, you could also vacuum them in a jar, I guess it has the correct humidity. But like the enemy of it is they need to stay kind of pliable and they need to not flash off. So I would recommend packaging them in a way where they don't turn, as my family would say, shidyad. You know what I mean? Which I don't think is a curse. Close to a curse. Close to a curse. But, I don't know. What else to do with vanilla? You eat it, right? What do you guys like? I like ice cream. I like creme anglaise.
I mean, if they have that much,
I like cake.
They could refill like 200 grams.
Yeah, but like, who wants to be? Who wants to be in the hey, come over to my house? Yeah, like you have a coat with like a little you open it up. You have all these vanilla beans hanging on the inside of the coat.
My family buys all kinds of things on Facebook Marketplace. We would totally be getting some shady back deal vanilla beans on Facebook.
Yeah, but you'd expect them to be almost free. Facebook Marketplace is for people who are too shady to go on eBay. I know that because I buy stuff on Facebook Marketplace. You know what I mean? And you're like, I don't know. Hey, psst, vanilla. Anyway, Nick says, I live in a small apartment in Brooklyn and I'm planning a party for as many people as I can fit. The party, I'm sure, is over because this question came in a while ago, but we're still going to tell you, Nick. For as many people as I can fit in the apartment, I would like to serve some fried food, maybe arancini or fried chicken. But I've attempted deep frying during a party, and it was messy and challenging in my place. There's one good reason to fry at a party. If you hate your guests. You don't have to be around them. You don't have to be around them because you're going to be working the whole time, right? Back when I used to do every week was Friday, Sunday was Friday at the Carpenter Arnold homestead back in the day because I had a 40-pound commercial deep fryer in my apartment. So I could crank out enough food to feed like 20, 30 people at a party. No sweat. You know what I mean? Like literally 4 or 5, 4 pounds at a time. And it's fine. You know what I mean? But, with a normal stove, there ain't no way that you can do that. You just can't, right? So
how's the cleanup after that?
On a commercial fryer? Fine. I mean, they're built for it. Yeah. And you reuse the oil, right? So in a non-restaurant setting where you're not abusing it, you're not going, ham on it all the time. You just cool it, filter it, cover it, and you're good. 3-4 fries, depending. Really depends more sometimes. It depends on the oil you use and what you're frying. If you use stabilized oil, then it lasts a long, long time. But yeah, commercial deep fryers are much more gentle on oil than frying in a pot because you're not overheating the oil as much. So anyway, everyone knows commercial deep fryers are from the heavens, like a gift, a fryer. And every day that I think about the fact that I no longer have one in my kitchen, a little tear comes to my eye. I'm one of those what's that clown, Emmett? Whatever, with the tear coming out of his eye. Okay. I've attempted deep frying during a party and it was messy and challenging in my place. Is there any method that comes close to newly fried but lets me do frying a few hours in advance, or is it best just to avoid fry stuff? Well, Nick, do you have an Innova APO precision oven or access to any form of Combi Lloyd, or CVAP? Because if you do, you can... those were designed to hold Kentucky Fried Chicken for a long time. So what you do, if you can do it, is you set a certain amount of steam in the... Well, you set the... Depends on whether you have a CVAP, an Innova, or what. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to set the wet bulb temperature to be roughly the temperature that you want to hold the fried food at. So let's say... 60, right? 140 or lower, right? So somewhere between 55 and 60, you're going to want to have that usually set. And then you set the dry bulb temperature, which is the temperature of the air, to be higher so that you maintain a certain amount of crispiness, right? So Innova actually sets wet bulb, dry bulb temperature, whereas the CVAP just has a crispy number. And so the higher the crispy, maybe they've changed it, but the higher the crispier number, basically the drier the surface will be. And you can mimic that yourself if you're handy with a water pan, an oven, and some PID controllers. But, probably easier just to buy the Innova. And the Innova has enough power to function as a holding oven in that capacity. What do you think? Covered and smothered? Good?
Good.
All right.
Covered and smothered.
There you go. Harris J says, I like to make out there kind of cookies. My white whale has been trying to achieve a Florentine-style crust on the outside of the cookie. So far, I've made a sugar syrup that's taken to just before the hardball stage on the stove and poured a bit over the surface before baking with mixed results. I've dipped the cookie in a number of different sugars, but still can't get that crystalline, almost brulee top. Any help or suggestions would be appreciated. Well, why don't you just make the cookie, right? And then if you want, you can coat it with something. And then just cook tuile, right? Which, to me, a Florentine's like a thick tuile, right? Like it's butter, sugar, and like not much else, right? Like what's in those things? Like those crispy Swedish caramel cookies / tuile dough / Florentines. It's basically, it caramelizes, spreads out. The water that's in the butter or whatever else is in it like bubbles, and you get this kind of bubbly, crackly surface. I think that's what we're talking about. And one way to sandwich that with something else is to put, after it cools, to put chocolate underneath it so that there's a barrier, right? Like that's how the drumsticks are made. So a drumstick, like you take a waffle cone, you coat the inside of it with chocolate. And by the way, the Nestle Corporation, for as much as I dislike what they have done, they had an interesting thing on their website that says, we realized that some of our cones were getting a little bit soggy in a standard freezer. So we've increased the size of the chocolate nugget in the bottom of the cone to counteract this problem. So there you go. So you need a sort of barrier. So chocolate forms that kind of barrier. But if you're going to eat it relatively quickly, I would say this. If you've ever cooked, my mom used to call them Swedish cookies, right? And so they're like, they get huge, like a tuile in the oven and crack. They have nuts in them too, these ones. And then you can roll them into a tube while they're hot, and then they get hard and crispy as they dry. What if you just made your cookies, then made the tuiles, and while they were hot, draped them over the other cookie? See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then it's going to set up, and then you should be good to go. You know what I mean? I think that's the answer.
I wonder if, depending on the consistency of both doughs, you could almost bake them simultaneously, like a creme craquelin.
Well, except for, I don't think that, I just don't know. Maybe you could try it. You know what I mean? But the whole thing about the tuile is that those things is that they're very, very runny. They get very, very liquid. And so they go from being like a ball to like really flat and big. You know what I mean?
Or what if you have like a bottom layer of the crackling of the Florentine, and then you put little dough on top, and then you invert?
I don't think it would flash off. I mean, you could do the reverse. You could put it underneath. So in other words, like, I think you need to bake them separately because they bake in different regimes. Like, that's the thing. They are a different style of product. So I think you bake it once. But the nice thing about these things is that they are relatively, they are, what's the word I'm looking for? They're pliable when they're hot, right? So like you can use that to your advantage because like other caramelly and candy things, they set up as they cool. All right. Working backwards through the questions. Oh, actually, no, that was forwards. All right, here we go.
That was forward.
Okay, by the way, you want to talk about Patreon and what people can do, why they might want to do it, and Rich C and all the other great stuff?
Yeah. Check out patreon.com/cooking issues to see what, to sign up for the podcast, see what kind of different membership levels we got. We got from free to a couple different tiered paid ones. Being a member should get you prioritized question answering. But discounts with some of the great people that we work with, including Matt at Kitchen Arts and Letters, Nick Coleman from Grove and Vine, a whole other great roster of people. You get access to the Discord with other like-minded listeners, get to share cooking experiments, all these other kinds of things. So, yeah, check it out. Patreon.com/cooking issues.
All right. And if you like this podcast, go to wherever your podcasts are given and try to rate us a high thing. It helps us out. It helps us help you. All right. So
we have to have a guest in 2 weeks.
2 weeks or 1 week?
We've next... The 22nd, we've got Chef David Stanridge from the Shipwright's Daughter and Mystic. The following week, we've got Alice and John from Hannah McJoley out here in Brooklyn. And working on getting a couple other people as well. So,
Did you know that Connecticut is small state, best state?
Yeah. Love Connecticut.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Someone said to me, does Connecticut have anything besides pizza?
Oh, man.
And I was like, you know what? Delete.
Lost, yeah.
I was like, you know what? How long do you have?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Morons. All right. Rock Baker writes in, I found a YouTube video on an Existing Conditions, which is my old bar. Existing Conditions non-alcoholic cocktail called Serendipity. Please tell me how to make this drink. So that was a non-alc drink that was a built drink. So in other words, it's supposed to drink like an old fashioned. And the spec was Bobby Murphy's spec, who's at Illis. And It was. Now, I don't know if this is accurate. I got it off the old database, but I don't know the actual database that we used right at the bar. I don't know if it's 100% accurate whether we added other stuff, but it's fundamentally 1 part, so like 30 mils of clarified passion fruit puree. We used Goya. This was before all of this stuff took place, but wherever you landed, we used Goya, and we tried higher end ones, and the drink didn't taste as good, right? So it was one of the many times I've been shown that just because something is better on its own doesn't make it better in a drink, right? So or better in a cooked environment. So clarified Goya passion fruit puree and 60 of clarified tomato. We used Campbell's tomato in a what's it called? The plastic, not the cans, like the plastic juice bottles, Campbell's, right? And so we've tried a different one, and it wasn't the same. When I was a kid, I grew up drinking Sacramento tomato juice out of the can that you needed a church key to open, right? That's what we had in my house all the time. Maybe because my mom was from Sacramento, I don't know. You know what I mean? But like that's what we used to have. But for this, we use and. You're like, why didn't you make your own tomato juice? Well, because your own tomato juice probably sucks. Like, honestly, your own tomato juice is probably the worst, right? First of all, did you take the time to get all the skins off of? Because the skins are bitter. Like, did you have tomatoes at their peak of ripeness? You know what? Just go to the people that make tomato juice. You know, like Nastasia likes to say about pasta.
Nastasia likes to say this about a lot of things that you do, too.
Yeah, but I mean, like, someone's like, I made this thing. It's called the wheel, but mine's not really round. Go to the wheel people. You know what I mean? Anyway, Stas, you agree with me finally on this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, go to the freaking wheel people. And then to that, add so the recipe says for that 1 gram of glycerin. I know for a fact we added more. Right? And then salt, saline solution. And I think sometimes we would adjust the sugar up or down depending on exactly how it worked. But the whole point of that drink, the whole point of any non-alcoholic drink on a rock like that is that it has to start out very viscous. And it also has to have something in it that's not unpleasant, but that's weird enough to stop you from pounding it. And so tomatoes, so we have a drink on the menu now, which I had as my working title, tomato bull, sugar honey iced tea. And now that's the menu name of it because no one thought of a new name for it. And because tomato is a very good, clarified tomato is a very good thing to slow you down because it's like it's good, but it's weird enough that you're not going to go pound it because then it's not like a cocktail. It's like a juice shot, which is not what we're looking for. So the tomato and the passion fruit together made it slow enough to drink, and the glycerin made it viscous enough to last over the dilution in the. We also put a grape. I'm going to want to say grapefruit twist in it. That's what I'm going to want to say. Although, because that's just what I would add, but I don't actually remember. But I think that's what it was. Azu 2 writes in, I'd like to learn some general strategies for how to convert a very flavorful, salty condiment into an appropriate marinade for proteins. I like how you just say, you don't just call out the condiment. Like it's like a secret condiment you don't want to call out. You know what I mean? Like, is it that you're embarrassed or that you don't want someone else to take this secret salt? But then Azu does mention actually the condiment. For example, the ingredient that inspired this question was gochujang, and thinking about how I would try to make gochujang ribs. In general, it seems the answer is to find something to thin your ingredient out, but it seems like a pretty wide space to choose from. Soy sauce, sesame oil, and mirin, for example, would all help to get to a marinade. But they all, you ever used to watch Cheech and Chong? Yeah. Eggs and bacon, marmalade. Anyway, but they all contribute something different to the mix. Also, totally get it if the answer is just pick some flavorful liquids in the ballpark of where you're starting from and fiddle with the ratios until it tastes good. That's good advice, Azu. That's good advice right there. I mean, you've given yourself some good advice. Any general advice would be appreciated. Well, I mean, look. Gochujang is not extraordinarily salty, so it's not going to be bad if you water it down with something that has a little bit of a salt level to it. And you also got to remember, salt is good because the flavors in the gochujang are not going to penetrate very far into the meat unless you needle it. First of all, everyone who's anti-freaking, you don't get any penetration of flavor when you marinate. Well, like marinate because they're testing it on things like chicken breast that don't have any holes in it, right? So like meats that have a lot of gaps, meats that are very thin, meats that have been needled. Like these can all get flavors on the inside of them. But, whatever. Take it where you want. Some sugar, some salt. You could just use water. Know what I mean? It doesn't have to be flavorful. And then adjust the salt level to where you want it to be. If you want it to taste like gochujang, then I would have it be almost entirely gochujang. And if you wanted to, thin it, you could thin it with water and gochu. You know what I mean? You could buy gochu and add that to the water and make that and, get it a little thinner and salt, right? You just need to get your salt and sugar levels where you want. That's what it is. What do you, anyone else?
I do have some feedback.
Okay.
Again, if a zoo or anybody else has ever done equilibrium brining, and then you're mixing all these ingredients, you want to look at the nutrition label. You take the sodium content per serving size, and you times it by 2.5. And that'll give you the actual sodium chloride salt equivalent.
Yep, that is true. But I don't know. I don't know that they're good. They're not. I don't think they're pickling it, right? They're just. We're not gonna. Well, I don't know. Whatever,
if they want a marinade that's roughly 1% salt equilibrium for their ribs, and they're using a bunch of different ingredients that also contain salt.
Right. I don't know how many.
Math it out.
I used to know how many days it would take to get to equilibrium on something like that, but ribs are so weird because of all the bone and all the fat. Hard to calculate.
I'm just saying in general.
Wenrick writes in, hey, Dave, would you consider manufacturing KitchenAid attachments that actually reach the bottom of the bowl? No. Stas, would you consider making that? No. You be Wenrick will be our first customer, which I totally appreciate. But on the other hand, I'd only have the 3 customers, and then we would get ripped off by our own factory. And then, we would have invested, $100,000 tooling and a year of our lives because even if I told those fools now, make a paperclip, they'd be like, it's a year. I'm like, it's a paperclip. They'd be like, it's a year. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, it's a year and 3 months because it's always.
Yeah, and it doesn't make it by it doesn't make it by Thanksgiving, Stas. And in fact, not even that. They're not even going to make it before Chinese New Year. Right or wrong?
Right. Always.
By the way, people. Listen up. It's not a political statement. Depending on how this election goes, buy all your stuff from China now. You know what I mean? Seriously. As someone who makes stuff in China, and Stas will back this up, if the tariffs go up to 60% again, we're hanging it up. We're done. You know what I mean? That's it. It's over. You know what I mean? Because it's either 60% or we take another 3 years and find a manufacturer here that will build the Spinzall for 4 times as much money, right? There is no in-between for small businesses like us. It does not exist, right? So I'm sorry. There is no way for us to quote unquote make this Spinzall in America, right? So not for what we sell it for now, which people already think what we sell it for is unreasonable, right? So depending on how it goes, buy all your gear now. Speaking of, they still haven't picked up our freaking Spinzalls from the dock. They're like, did you know there was a strike? Yes! I knew there was a strike. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Over. Yeah.
It's been over.
Yeah.
And the guy, literally, I feel like it's someone just on the couch smoking a cigarette being like, it's busy. I'm not going to go till it mellows out. What? It was shut for 2 days. How unmellow can it be? You know what it is, Stas? They literally don't give a rat's behind about us. That's what it is.
Yeah. But you know what? Modernist Pantry's pretty staying on top of them, which is really nice.
I know. Thank God somebody else is staying on top of it instead of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, not just because we're bad at it, but I mean, just because thank God. You know what I mean? Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So Wenrick also adds, sorry about that rant about making things. Wenrick also adds, I bought the rice polisher. So, I don't know, a month or 2 ago, I mentioned that I bought a rice polisher on Amazon that it's Japanese and it's from Japan and it's built for Japanese current, but it works fine in the US, right? Works fine. And what it does is it has a little basket and a little like spin like a little paddle, and theoretically you put rice into it, and it like almost abrades the outside of the rice to take off the coating. So you can either take brown rice and make it into white rice, or you can make it into semi-brown rice. It has a bunch of different settings to see how much it's going to, or you can just take a little off the outside of your rice to like, quote unquote, freshen it up if that's something you're worried about. But I have it to remove the very outer coating of bran in wheat, right? So I use it when I'm baking bread to knock off the outer coating, either in addition to as a replacement for sifting, because you can remove as much bran as you want by keep milling it until you remove enough stuff that it's almost all the bran is gone, and then run it through your mill. Or you could take just the outer bit, which has a lot of the hairs, which some people say are very detrimental for baking loaf volume. Anyway, okay. I bought the rice polisher and it works fantastically. Do you always do just 2 white rice cycles or sometimes more? I noticed on Red Fife, which is a wheat, which by the way can be either spring or winter wheat, such a pain in the butt. Did I tell you guys I did a test on? So winter wheat is wheat that you plant in the fall after harvest, before the snow sets in, and that wheat needs the overwintering to really sprout well and do well, germinate. So that is wheats that are grown in non-really harsh environments. Spring wheats are wheats that you plant and sow in the same season. So you wait for the frost to be over, you plant your wheat, it grows, and you harvest it. So a lot of all of the very northern, like Manitoba style wheats are often spring wheats because it's harsh out there, right? So Red Fife is one of those weird wheats that can be grown either as a spring wheat or as a winter wheat. In general, spring wheats don't taste. For the given variety, spring wheats are not supposed to taste as good as their winter varieties, but have like a very high kind of protein ratio. They can be kind of harsher. And it was those spring wheats that took a long time to learn to mill properly to make the bread flour that we all use, like Canadian style and Northern America style, like bread wheats. Anyway, I digress a little bit, except for I did a side-by-side test of Red Fife as a winter and as a spring wheat. And you know what I didn't notice? A difference. So, all right. I noticed on Red Fife that there's still a decent amount of bran left after 2 cycles. Yeah, I'm trying to keep a good amount of bran. What I don't want to lose, and the problem with the number of cycles, if you look in the chaff at the bottom, you'll see that it depends on the wheat style, wheat type, but they tend to degerminate. And I really like the flavor of wheat germ. And so what I want to do is rub off a chunk of the bran on the outside, but I don't really want to degerminate it. So I'm really kind of running the cycles to try to surf around that. Right now I use the number 4 cups, which is 4 goes of rice, but I'm adding 666, the devil's number of wheat, to it. And I'm running it now usually at actually 8. And I'll run it once if I'm going to sift, and I'll run it twice if I'm not. Okay. Garrett wants to know about Contra's celeriac crumpet. How does that work? It's so good. Are these traditional or are they modern crumpets? Modern crumpets. A real crumpet is a short thing cooked in almost like an English muffin on a pan. Maybe I guess they can bake them, but they're short and they're kind of bubbly on top. These are cooked like a quick bread in an oven, and they're taller, so they're not a traditional crumpet. I'll tell you this: I don't really know the recipe. I can ask, but I know that they cook the celery root beforehand. They pre-roast the celery root before they make it, and then they make it into a quick bread, almost like banana bread. There you have it. Ron Baker writes in, seeking a way to preserve our wines by the glass bottle at my restaurant. Any suggestions besides the Coravin system? I don't have any suggestions other than the Coravin system. But, I don't know. There you go. And in the minute I have left, how about this? Useless tool review. Yeah, I bought a useless kitchen tool, but I'm here to review it for you. I bought the OXO pineapple corer. And so what this is, I was at a thrift store, and it was like $4. And you turn it in, you shove it into, you cut the top and bottom off a pineapple, and you shove it on, and it cores, and you go and you twist it through the pineapple, and it cuts it into one long spiral ring, almost like the apple core thing does for apples and or potatoes. And I was like, I'm not buying this. This is stupid. And then when I picked it up, I realized it had a ratchet in the handle so that you just go and you don't have to let go of the pineapple to do it, right? And I was like, oh yeah, for $4, I own this. I own this now. So I took it home, and I cored my first pineapple with it yesterday. And here's what I'm going to say. It wastes a lot more pineapple than I do just cutting it myself. However, if you were doing it in a restaurant environment or if you juice a lot, right, I would put the pineapple into a container because you're going to cut the top and bottom off, put it in a container because you're going to make a lot of juice, like, basically punching your way through this pineapple. Core through it, right, push it down, and then juice the skins and the core and the residue to get the extra yield out of it. And then... not a bad idea. Maybe next week, if I have time, I'll talk about the 2 new flour mills that I've been using. We'll be doing some bread tests on the Royal Lee Organic Mill and the Red Cell Mill versus the Como. So we can talk about that next week on Cooking Issues.